Welcome to another meeting of the Lorain County Commissioners, broadcast exclusively on your Lorain County Community College education station. The Lorain County Commissioners cordially invite you to see the meetings live and in person every Thursday morning. The meetings are located in the Lorain County Administration Building, located at 226 Middle Avenue in downtown Elyria. The meetings start at 9:30 a.m. on most weeks. Now, enjoy the meeting.
Authorize the President to execute on behalf of the Board applications and future grant agreement to the State of Ohio Governor's Highway Safety Office Highway Safety Program Agreement for a safety grant to upgrade signs in the county's 10 school zones on county roads. The grant is for $8,880 to purchase diamond gray fluorescent signs and posts to replace our school zone signs. The engineer signs department personnel will perform the installations, and the grant is 100% on a reimbursement basis.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Advertise bids for various food items to be supplied to Lorain County Golden Acres and Lorain Medina Community-Based Correctional Facility. This published notice will be in the Chronicle Telegram and Morning Journal on November 16th and 23rd, 2001.
So moved.
Second. Pam, are these going to be split, or are they going to be all compiled into one bid? I mean, you have fresh foods and you have frozen foods.
Right.
Are they all going to be on one?
On one bid. They're separated out. They're all enclosed in one, but they're separated out.
So individual businesses can vote, bid on individual
Right.
products? Okay,
Right.
thanks.
Further discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy? Aye. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Authorize the release and payment of retainage to Allied Construction Group in the amount of $5,127.28 for work performed on the Children's Services restroom renovation project. Children's Services and Ralph Smagello, Building and Ground Supervisor, have indicated the work is complete and they are satisfied with the work performed. The contract is complete and the contractor has submitted the necessary paperwork.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Accept the letter of request from Attorney Garrett Murray to withdraw petition and map for proposed annexation of 124.2 acres in Carlisle Township to the City of Elyria, Ohio. This was EFT Incorp. with the United Polish Club of Elyria.
Also moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy? Aye. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Did you have any comments on that, Jenna?
I think she wanted us not to accept it, didn't you?
Oh, no. You're not getting it this morning, are you? He just doesn't
I don't want to embarrass her.
It's not your birthday either.
I know. Well, her mother told her to watch me on this one, so I get her in trouble at home. So.
Authorize.
For picking on me the last one. Okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Teresa.
It's okay. I was going to move.
Yeah, good. Go ahead.
Authorize Lorain County Domestic Relations Court to file the following application for funding to be provided by the Dana Corporation Foundation. This funding will provide the court the opportunity to purchase 4 laptop computers, 2 computers, and training for the newly formed Investigation and Referral Program, and the approximate funding request will be $10,000. Also, funding through the Lorain County Workforce Investment Board. Funding range for this proposal is $50,000 to $75,000, and this funding will be a cost reimbursement grant in which they will fund their program. The grant will be used to establish a program that will link the Stepping Stone Residential Center with Lorain County Joint Vocational School. The specifics of the program include JVS teachers coming to Stepping Stone to teach and communicate skills with a wide variety of job skills training.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, this newly formed investigation and referral program, can we get some information on it? I'm not really familiar with it since it's a new one.
Nor am I, Commissioner.
I didn't think, I thought maybe we could have someone come in here and inform us a little bit on what this new program is all about and how it operates.
I will speak to Ms. Ward and see if I can have her attend our next meeting, which will be the one after the Thanksgiving holiday.
Maybe they can fill us in on some of the others, because I know that domestic relations courts have a lot of programs for the youth and they're really beneficial programs. And if they could come in here and maybe utilize the television to get some attention to these programs, because people should know what they're all about.
I'll discuss the issue with Ms. Ward and relay your message.
Because I know at one time, the Grafton Prison had a program. It was Captain Drozdowski, help me here. What was it where they had juveniles go into the prison? What did they call that?
Scared Straight.
Scared Straight program, which was excellent. And then they had some management changes at the prison, and that was stopped, and I guess they're going to try and implement it again. So it's programs like that are beneficial to our youth that should get some recognition and people should be aware of. Thanks.
I'll take that issue for you, Commissioners. I'll make
Thank
sure it
you.
happens.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Accept a proposal from Ganaris in the amount of $4,500 to enhance Lorain County Purchasing Department and requisition reporting, which allows the county commissioners to make weekly decisions on funding allocations for various departments.
Also moved.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yes, please tell me how this is going to enhance the department.
Pam?
This will give you more information on the reports. I don't have the proposal in front of me. I didn't realize it was on board this week, so I'm not really sure. But I know it will give you
Was it more where the funds are
description.
coming from, and is it going to be more detailed on that? end of
Right.
it?
It's going to give you more information, the requisitions. It's going to be more reader-friendly, basically, is what it's going to do.
So that's going to change what we see every week?
It's going to add to it. The words aren't going to be cut off. It's just going to be easier to read.
More detail?
Right.
One of the problems right now is, let me see if I can give you
I saw this, but I didn't really understand. Sorry.
Let me see if I can give you a little greater explanation. One of the problems now, as we go through the purchase, is if we make a change, Danita has to go back and try to redo the whole list, and it's not a very good process. It's not user-friendly. With this, deletions and changes and additions, et cetera, can be incorporated into these reports very quickly, and they're very automated. So we'll save a lot of time in making changes and updates to the package that comes before the board. This is an ongoing process. We've been using Norris in a lot of our departments to upgrade our ability to manipulate the data in the mainframe computers. We just did some 2 weeks ago for John's department, and we've done a couple before in the purchasing department. We're doing these lists right now in a very crude Lotus or a database system that's just not very effective use of time.
Okay, I just thought it was going to change what we're now seeing.
Actually, I think it's going to greatly improve what you're seeing. Sometimes I know I get confused on what we're seeing, and I have to ask a lot of questions that because of the way the reports are. I think that you'll be very pleased with the greater access to the data that you will receive through changing these reports.
Take your word for it.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Approve and enter into a loan agreement with Paul Fortner, 4396 Edgewater Drive, Vermillion, in the amount of $37,129.60 for the construction of a coastal erosion structure. This has been reviewed and recommended by the Lorain County Community Development Department, and funds are available in the Ohio Water Development Authority, and authorize the President to execute on behalf of the Board.
Also moved.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Is this another one of those opportunities of the Community Development Department in assisting the public?
Yes, it is, Commissioners. I'll take this opportunity and thank you for recognizing that. I was going to say something, I lost track, of course, of the issue I just spoke on. We're only one of the very, very few counties in the state of Ohio that has an erosion control program in place to make loans to our residents. And we're the first one. I'm not sure we're still the only one, but we were first. This is another initiative that this board put forward to improve the quality of life for our residents here in Lorain County. This is, I believe, our second loan under that program. You should be lauded for your insight to make this available. I'm very pleased with the way it's going, and I encourage you to approve this resolution. And once again, thank you for your support for the Community Development Department to be able to have these programs.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Authorized payment to Lorain Memorial Hospital for an unpaid United Healthcare claim in the amount of $664.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy? Aye. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Authorize a notice to proceed letter to America Coring and Sawing of Vermillion, Ohio for the City of Amherst Old Post Office, a CDBG project, effective November 20, 2001. This contract was awarded on October 18th by Resolution 01962.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Authorize the purchase of permanent parcel 06260510000021, known as 216 3rd Street, Elyria, Ohio, in the amount of $160,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes. I really feel that that building is a poorly designed building with the extension where it kind of extends away from the part that extends from the actual building. I believe that that stays cold in the winter, and it's vice versa in the summer. And the heating and cooling equipment needs to be replaced. And in my opinion, we should probably look at the Burger King building before we even decide on this, rather than purchasing this building, because when we do the Justice Center, we're going to have space here, and we can use this Burger King building then to drop the building and use it for parking. And I believe that was the whole thought behind purchasing or building the Justice Center, was to make room in this building. So I can't see us buying that building for those reasons.
I can't speak to the heating and cooling. Perhaps Mr. Cortez has some information on that, but I will say this. We have seen several items today on our agenda that have been produced through the good work of our Community Development Department. And the intent of the board, I believe, and the focus that we've taken is to relocate the Community Development Department to this location, which is the former Columbia Gas Building on 3rd Street, which is right across from the administration building here. So they'll have easy access to us. There will be some parking there so that people can come in and out without having to come in the parking deck. And I just think it's probably a good investment for the future of Lorain County, and that's why I'm supporting the issue.
But there's structural matters that need to be repaired. I believe it needs a new roof, the heating and cooling, and I'm telling you, in the winter it's going to be cold because of that extension, and in the summer vice versa, because that extension is cement. The structure is poor in that building, and we do have the J.C. Penney building, and that is vacant. We can put them in there temporarily until the space opens up in this building after the Justice Center. I just think it's not a good idea to spend $160,000 in a building that we really don't need at this time or in the future, because when we do put the Justice Center up, there's going to be space here, and we're going to be able to use the Burger King property. If we drop the building and we don't need it later after the Justice Center is up, we can use that for parking. It'll be right there where the Justice Center is going to be. I think we're throwing good money after bad money over here.
Well, I like the...
Let's just let me conclude, Commissioner Moore. I'm sorry. We have not purchased the Burger Building.
I'm saying we should instead of.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that comment. But the other issue is that I think that Mr. Cortez has already been solicited for the space that's downstairs that needs, from some other county needs. So I don't think we can wait until we construct the Justice Center. Commissioner Moore?
I mean, the reason why I support this, it's a good deal. Unlike the J.C. Penney's building, the location isn't as appropriate for Economic Development and Community Development Department. For $160,000, unfortunately, I'm a county commissioner. I can't purchase this building because it was such a good deal. And I think it's going to cost $40,000 to $50,000 to rehab the building, and which you're talking about $200,000 to $210,000 for a working building that the county can be proud of, that the local citizens and people coming into this county can see as a standalone building, not be intimidated by government, and talk about the grants, things like the microloan enterprise programs. They can go in there and talk to the people that are directly involved in this program. The way I look at this building, with what we're paying for this building, I know we're paying probably below market value on this as I see it, and I know worst case scenario in 3 to 4 years, I know we will be able to sell this property for exactly what we have into this property. So if we decide that we don't need the space and we can combine some things in the future, I believe this property, we not only would get our money back, we'd probably make a few dollars. And so I think this is one of those deals where we have a purpose, we have a strategy to use the building properly, and it's not going to sit vacant. So I support this purchase wholeheartedly, and I like the value. I think it's a good deal for the taxpayers.
Yeah, but you know what happens, though, when you put a department into a building and they settle in the future, you really don't move them out. And the whole purpose of the Justice Center was so that all the administrative departments will be in this building, and people don't have to go here and there. This is a one-stop shop right here. So I think we're really defeating the purpose. And not only that, but when I just took office, community development had 2 employees, and now I think we're up to 10. So I'm really pleased with the job that they're doing, but they should be doing that with the number of employees that they have down there. I would expect that they would do a terrific job for the county with,
I think they do.
with all those people, and they do, but and I would expect even more.
Oh, you're going to get it.
I'm hoping that we do.
Yeah,
But
well,
I
let's
just
talk about-
can't see putting one department into a building by itself like that. It's
Well, let's talk about what's
part
going
of
to
the county
happen. Let's talk
functions.
about what's going to happen now that we have all the free space. My understanding is there's a floor here that is on top of each other.
Okay.
What's gonna happen when we move?
Not to get in between difference of agreement and commissioners.
No, but-
Let's talk to the issue.
The issue is what's going to happen to the space once we move these people out?
Well, we're grossly overcrowded with children's services on the 3rd floor of the building. That's evident by them actually conducting businesses in the hallway down there. I understand from Mr. Anderson that the prosecutor's office is also, their space is grossly inadequate. The biggest problem is going to be who we give some of that space to downstairs, because everybody wants it, everybody needs it. We do have a very pent-up need now, whether it be through the Reservoir building or the Columbia Gas building. This is a decision for the board. But our space needs, some of our space needs, with all due respect to Commissioner Basie, are not going to wait until the Justice Center is completed in a few years. It's getting to the point of being untenable in this building.
And I understand that, but yet we have a vacant building in the JCPenney building. And if this is going to be a temporary move, then what's wrong with temporarily moving them into the JCPenney building?
I don't see it as a temporary move.
Well-
except-
Oh, you just said. I thought you
No, I
just
said
said
we
that
have the
in the
option
future you
in the
could sell
future.
that.
Yeah, in the future we could if we chose to. I'm just saying it's one of those deals, it's one of those purchases where I think it's a win-win. We're not overpaying for a property. If we do have to move them out, then I don't think we're going to lose our money that we have invested in it.
No, but I
I'm not
don't
saying
see-
I don't see us moving out anyway. It's 5,000 square feet, I understand, and I think it's more than sufficient space.
No offense, but I don't
Right.
see county government as being an investment thing. I mean, we shouldn't be buying property just for an investment.
No, but
I
if
just
you're
don't see
gonna buy-
county government doing the same way.
I know, I see it,
And I know you do as a business person, and I
Right.
commend you for that, but
But I also see the JCPenney's building is $400,000 for a building downtown that's just sitting there that didn't
That's right.
have a plan,
that's right.
that doesn't have a strategy, and that's why I support this, is because there is a plan, there is a need, and there is a strategy, and if worst case scenario, it doesn't happen in 5 years or 6 years, I think we're going to be fine financially getting our money back. The JCPenney's building, what we've done this year is we received enough income from storage from the person that we bought it from that we're now receiving $5,000 a month, which I look at it this way. We paid $400,000, the $5,000 a month's coming in, and I see it's bringing down the $400,000 purchase price. So every month that value of that building's coming down as really a good investment for the county right now, although it's vacant. Now in the future, are we going to use that building? Probably for the record centers. There's other ideas, but I think right now there's an immediate need to help out the community development department, which I think this is a great opportunity. There's a need, we're filling it, and
But do you see the Burger King building
I
that could be
see-
utilized later, and not just for an investment, but it can be utilized later? I mean, I would prefer to put the money there.
I think that's a nice building, but unfortunately, we are the buyers and the sellers, we have not come to a value of purchase. I think that's a whole other issue.
That's an existing business.
Yeah,
It's
that's already
operating
there.
in downtown Elyria. This is a vacant building. I don't think.
So we're-
Yeah, but we looked at it before, and they were willing to sell it before, so I think they would
No,
still...
I
I don't
agree.
think we ever came to agreement on the purchase of it. That's why it's still outstanding.
Well, I think part of the deal was they wanted to stay there after we bought it, so they could, because they do have an existing business there.
For a little while.
All right.
But I'm still saying, the JCPenney building, even though I didn't vote to purchase that, is still vacant, and we have to do something. And just because I didn't vote to purchase, it doesn't mean that it's going to help keeping it vacant. Something has to be done with it.
The
think we're getting
original
something
intent
now.
for that purchase was to provide parking for the train station, which is in the process of being redeveloped.
But I believe that building is too good to be dropped.
Well, and that might very well be, but the original intention was to use it for parking.
Well, I think the bottom line here is we have a building that's empty, that at least we're getting revenue off of. We're getting something back for what we paid for. I guess the only issue we have to decide now is,
For how long?
well, that's another issue for another day that's not on the agenda. I guess let's look back at what we're here for today, which is whether or not to help out not help out, but to enhance the community development department.
One issue, just for clarification, on the JCPenney building, we are getting the storage rent, which is fantastic. But I also like to point out that the building really isn't empty. We are using it to warehouse stuff, so we are getting some service like that.
There's a lot of space in there.
There's a lot of space, yes, Commissioner, there is.
So who's using it?
Well, we're putting county maintenance department, we're putting a lot of materials in there. Our space for those issues has been inadequate for years also, and they became even more exacerbated when we dropped the old barns and we put the parking right in out by the new dog pound. We lost a tremendous amount of storage space out there that was never recouped until we started using the JCPenney building. Once again, I'm not trying to tell you where community development should go.
But I know for a fact, being that I've gone through that building, there's enough room for everybody.
Yes, there is.
Okay, close my case.
Madam Clerk, you call the roll, please.
One moment, please, if I may. I need to modify this resolution. We have selected a title company. It should have been in this resolution. We were waiting on coming guests. Sandy, do you have that? The issue there? Usually part of the resolution, we agree to the title company with the seller. And I'd like to get to one resolution and have it done completely. Thanks. Sandy, did Karen tell you what title company it was?
No, but
Would you please, I don't see it rather quickly here.
I just put the resolution as what the seller agreed to. Or do you have to have that?
Well, I believe she'd probably come back with that information before we finish the agendas. Can we just hold this till we get down to the next?
No,
Are
I
you
don't
ready?
want to hold it.
Okay, then I'll just get another resolution.
I do
for
what
title company.
Commissioner Moore
Yes.
suggested.
Yes.
And your suggestion was
Basically, just to accept what the seller.
Yes.
to accept the seller's title company.
Okay,
Is
great.
that sufficient?
That'll work.
And I will include that as part of my motion. If that's all right with you as a seconder?
Yep.
Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
No.
Provide for the issuance and sale of $723,600 notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of preparing the plans, specifications, surveys, and maps for the Eaton Township area sewage system. This is a refinancing of the existing note.
This is an existing note,
Correct.
a refinancing. Also move.
Would you like to second that?
I'd like to have a discussion if you want to.
Go for it.
But I don't want to go out of order here, so.
So
If
second
you
it
wish,
and then
no,
discuss.
no, because then I'd have to withdraw my second, hopefully after I'm done talking.
Do you want some background information on
No,
what the issue is?
I understand the issue. I'd like to say some things, though, about it. Can I say some things? Do you mind jumping out of?
Go right ahead.
Okay. My understanding is this is some notes of a, well, I look at it this way. This thing's going to be coming around, what, every year? every 2 years? Is that how we got this?
Well, because we're in a note, it's been coming around, but John, I believe our intention now is to move to a bond, correct?
We can't move to a bond on this particular issue unless an assessment is installed.
That's right, I remember
Can
now.
I ask you
Thank
this, John? How much do we have in our bond retirement fund?
Approximately $11 million.
$11 million? Do you see it'd be appropriate just to retire this debt and be done with it?
Good question, Commissioner. We
Would you like to come to the podium? And
Yeah, I guess I should do that.
Before you do that, I will withdraw my motion.
Okay, thanks.
John Rogacy, ROKASY. I am the County Budget Director. Commissioner, good question. I've had a lot of discussion with Squire Sanders and Dempsey over the years on this, but we cannot bond this out, of course, until an assessment would be put in. We're required by law to amortize at 1/10 of a year, or 1 year over a period of a 10-year period, each year 1/10 of that issue. So the answer to your question is we have to, in effect, refinance by note every year unless an assessment is put in.
Well, unless there's an assessment, or could we just retire the debt?
We're not permitted by law. Would love to do that, by the way, to avoid future interest.
So what are we
but,
doing? Are we
not.
just writing this thing down for the next 10 years?
That's correct.
That's the only avenue we have?
We can't retire this debt if...
I
if it's-
question that.
No, we can't.
Not to a bond retirement, but could we retire the debt through just paying it off?
No, we can't. I've explored that issue with Squires again on several occasions. It has to be a refinancing over a period of years. It's in the Ohio Revised
Because
Code.
it's an assessment. Because
Well, there is no
Unless the avenue becomes a permanent assessment, then that would be bonded out.
And that doesn't
Okay, well, let's do
So-
this. It appears we need some more information on the issue, so can we hold this?
Yeah,
When is the note due?
It would be due on the, let's see, this would be due on December 15th, Commissioner.
We have sufficient time to review this, do we not?
We may not. I'd like to explore that because of the holiday next week, the Thanksgiving. I would put the meeting at the 29th, and our bonding firm, Season Good and Mayor, I believe, Commissioner, would need more time, or would be cramped time-wise to do that. I do have Mr. Goodman of Squire Sanders and Dempsey on standby in Cleveland, and perhaps I could call him. This issue is coming up. I've communicated to him on this and other issues. And if there's some forum where we could get him available to expound on this particular issue or any of these, he said he would be glad to do that.
is there a phone plug out here?
No, there is one in the back room.
I'm sure if we
Let me offer, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I don't have the specifics on this, and
Resolution for...
I'd like to find out how we can retire this debt if we could also.
Is this...
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but John, isn't this going to be paid with the assessments and tie-in fees from the sewer project?
Not unless, Commissioner, the Eaton Interceptor is installed as an assessment, but it is not, as I understand at this point in time.
I'll let you run with it.
Yes, I don't anticipate this note being able to be paid off with tie-ins and
No,
assessments.
not if
Commissioner.
it's for the plans.
Right.
Yeah,
That was just for the plans out there.
Exactly. And we have received, almost $100,000 already for those portions of those plans.
Yes, that's correct. That's been credited
Right.
to that amount of the
So I
$800,000.
look at this as $723,600 worth of bad debt. That's how I see it.
Well,
Unless someone can explain it to me differently.
I wouldn't say it's bad debt. We have the engineering plans, should the project
That
go
will never
forward.
be used.
Well-
A portion of them
Are they being used?
now.
Right.
And there is a possibility to use another portion of them in the future.
Yes, that possibility does exist. They wanted Phase 1 of the plans. There was an agreement to purchase Phase 2 of the plan should the sewer progress that far over in North
But will
Ridge.
that bring out what we paid for the plans? I thought they were buying them at a discounted price.
No, Commissioner, we will not recapture the
right.
complete outlay of dollars on this issue.
Right. So what's the best way to...
Why don't I recommend that we go ahead, because we don't have a board meeting next week. We really have to refinance this note or retire it. Why don't we refinance the note? I will get with Squires, John, and Season Good and find a way that we can possibly retire this note.
Okay,
But
But
I'll
the
do that
definition of
quickly.
retirement is...
Excuse me?
Definition of retirement would be?
Would be to pay it off.
Could you have a dual motion?
That's what I was indicating, that if there is no possibility of doing that, and the code precludes us from retiring the note now, that we head into a new note because we have to refinance the debt. If there is the ability to retire the note, then we'll come back to this board 2 weeks when they meet. We'll put a hold on refinancing the note.
There would be a caveat in that.
Right, if there's a method of retiring it sooner.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if we could approve motion
summer.
to,
It's supposed to be the end project.
if we could approve a motion to issue the note.
Why can't we just wait?
Because it takes a few weeks to negotiate the note and get to market and so forth. John, how long has that been taking us now?
That's what I'm wondering.
It takes 3 to 4 weeks, Jim. Right. So, in my opinion, it would be imperative to
Well,
refinance at the amount stated with whatever the board would deem appropriate as a
Yeah,
caveat.
we've known about this. Since I've been here, I've heard about this. So and
It's
now all of a sudden,
95 note. It's-
yeah, but now we're sitting here at the last minute trying to figure out how to do this, and I don't have all the answers. And you guys are
Again, to
asking
my
to vote.
knowledge, there's no bonding possibility, but again, I'm open to suggestions on that.
Retire it. That's a nice suggestion.
well, I would like to entertain a motion to retire this bond, and if a retirement is not possible, then to refinance it, and I will so move.
Or would we retire it from what account?
We
Bond retirement.
not just
Okay,
bond
I'll
retirement.
second it, so we
Why
can talk
does it-
about it. I'll second it, now we can talk about it. How's that? Okay. I like that. I like how that sounded.
Not just from bond retirement. We obviously have the
Can use
ability to
anything,
retire
right?
from unappropriated funds.
I would prefer to retire from unappropriated funds.
So right now, what the discussion where we're at is, we made a motion second, basically to say either retire it or refinance. And then we're going to have another discussion on where we're going to have the money come from that, correct? Because right now, you need time to go dig up and get
Well,
some.
I would hope, getting back to Mr. Cordes' statement, Commissioners, that the authority would
I don't know
be
about
included
that.
in this resolution to at least have the avenue of proceeding with Season Good and Mayor and our attorneys to refinance this.
John, that was in the resolution.
What?
As structured by Commissioner Blair, gave us complete authority to move forward with that issue, absent our ability to retire the debt. So we have to look at retiring it before we proceed. I completely understand the desire of the board here, and let us look at that issue. We'll make absolutely sure that we can't before we proceed. If we can, we'll be back to see you.
What kind of documentation am I going to get that you can't? You will provide us with something, I hope.
Obviously, Commissioner, no
Okay.
problem. I will not sandbag you on this issue, Commissioner.
And I would never say you would sandbag me on
Okay.
that issue.
There's just an offering suggestion. There is an Ohio Revised Code section
Yeah.
that I think could be zeroed in on.
Okay. I just would like to,
I would like to see included in the motion that where this money is going to be coming from.
Well, Commissioners, if in fact there's a mechanism there, we'll come back to you and talk about it, because the urgency won't be there, because we'll be able to do that before the 15th, and then you can have a discussion on where the funds will come from.
I'd like to know before then. I'd like to know before I vote on this right now. I mean, if it's going to
Okay.
come from bond retirement or if it's going to come from unappropriated.
I don't think that question can be answered at this point.
It's a moot
because
point, 'cause
we're
we
not
don't know.
sure it can come from bond retirement. If you want that in the resolution, then you can set the priorities. You can say bond retirement first and unappropriated
I
second.
don't think it matters. I think right now it's like the chicken and egg. We gotta wait to see
Well,
first if we can do it. So if we can do it, then fine. If not, then it's a mooted point.
It's an interesting question. The funding to retire that, if that becomes possible, can come from either unappropriated monies, which is general fund, or the bond retirement fund.
Correct.
However, the bond retirement fund is funded by the general fund. So no matter what avenue we explore, the ultimate source of that money is the general fund.
So-
However, by accounting rules dictated by the state and otherwise, retirement of bonded debt would normally come out of the bond retirement fund.
But I prefer to see it come out of the unappropriated funds, because if it doesn't, that money can be used for just any purpose, practically any purpose, and then sometimes, in my opinion, used for things that I wouldn't believe it should be used for.
But we're gonna vote on that in 2 weeks or whenever. Okay. So bottom line now is we need to give you marching orders on whether or not it can be retired. If it cannot be retired, then we're just going to have to refinance. But if it can be retired, then you're going to have to come back, we're going to have to do another resolution, and we can discuss how we're going to retire the debt. How's that?
Yes,
Is that how I got the motion?
Exactly, gives the impetus to have
That's
this
why I
thing
second.
go.
That's why I seconded that motion.
Sure.
Are we done discussing? Madam Clerk?
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy? Aye.
Thank you.
Provide for the issuance and sale of not to exceed $4,600,000 bond for the purpose of refunding obligations previously issued for the purpose of preparing the plans, specifications, surveys, and maps for the sanitary sewer improvement number 104 necessary to plan for the collection and treatment of sewage within the county, paying in anticipation of levying collection of special assessments, the property's owner's portion and paying the county's portion of the cost of constructing sanitary sewer improvement number 104 in Lorain County General Sewer District, and paying cost of issuance of said bonds. This is also a refinancing of an existing note.
Commissioners, as you know, this is a continuation of our financing on the Amherst Township Sewer Project. We had earlier gone to a note in anticipation of being able to go to New York and visit Moody's or have them come here to upgrade our bond rating. So we wanted to hold off on bonding this issue in hopes of getting that rating and saving some cost. Obviously, everybody's aware of the tragic events that have taken place in New York since September 11th, and we weren't able to make that trip. Moody's has been somewhat in disarray. Although they're up and running, they're not running sufficiently enough for us to make a visit and request a change in our bond rating at this time. And the note, we had a short-term note, so we do need to refinance this issue. The bond market is still very good. We'd like to move into that bond rather than waiting again and trying to up that rating on this particular issue. With that, Mr. Rokes is available to discuss further if you have any questions.
Oh, to answer Commissioner Vacy's question, a final decision, Commissioner and Board, has not been made to bring Moody's here. That's an option. I've been working with Mr. Cortez on that. The other option, of course, is to go the traditional route of visiting New York.
I think there's a third option.
Let me interject, and I don't mean to be rude to you, John, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you, so I got to jump on this before Commissioner Blair jumps on me. She's also presented us with a third option. That would be to do a teleconference with Moody's. So we could probably do that through the college.
Or Department of Job and Family
Or
Services.
Department of Job and Family Services, where we all could be together and they could be together. I'm not sure if Moody has that capability.
Sure they do.
I think they may have had it, but I don't know if it's been redeveloped since the disaster. But that was a third issue, and I didn't want to leave that not addressed.
Well,
I wouldn't have let you leave it not addressed. Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
On the refi right now, does it look like we're getting a pretty good deal? I mean, compared to what we had last year? I mean, do you feel comfortable?
Commissioner, yes, exactly. I think that's an excellent point. This would go out to a refinance to a 20-year bond, special assessment bond. And although the market fluctuates daily, weekly, we'd probably come in at somewhere around 5%.
And with the deal that you guys struck, will that cover the projections on the revenue you're going to be receiving with that 5%? Because basically to pay for this, isn't it, for the tap-ins, the user fees?
Right, the assessments and tap-ins, that was worked out earlier before we went to this note.
At what rate?
The forecasted rate was over 5%.
Was over 5%?
Yes.
Okay, so our forecast for a 20-year bond was probably more than 5, probably 5.5, would you say? I mean, do you have any idea what the projections were?
Roughly, I would
Okay,
say.
so let's say you did it for a 5.5, even at 5%, it's going to be funded by the users, correct?
Right.
Is that my understanding?
Right.
Okay.
All the costs will be recaptured through the assessments, and it's a good point you raised, because we
It
don't...
could be the other way around. We could have projected out 5.5, we're at 7.5. So
Okay, let me go a little further with this, because you bring up some interesting thoughts. We not only have assessments and tap-in fees on the Amherst Township Sewer, but we also have user fees. The interesting part about this is that we may be able to have that bond paid off sooner, depending on, we don't really know how much flow that sewer is going to take on those user fees. So you may be readdressing those user fees sometime in the next few years, because it's hard to say just how much development is going to occur along this corridor. So there is a steady and adequate stream of revenue. And if that revenue is not sufficient, that user fee can be revisited and changed to make sure that there's enough revenue to support this bond issue. Correct, Mr. Okersey?
A bond can be retired early if there's a callable feature included in that.
Well, I was talking about the user fee.
I understand that.
Those fees can be, as I understand, changed under certain conditions.
Where are we at?
I don't even know. Was there a motion?
There is no motion.
There was no motion.
Okay, so do we have our questions answered on issue 32? I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Authorize the appointment of Bob Gatos to fill Kenneth Lewis's position and reappoint Jimmy Marsiglia as members on the Lorain County Board of Mental Retardation and Developmental Disabilities. These terms are effective January 1st, 2002 and expire December 31st, 2005.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy? Aye. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Authorize the reappointments of Varel Suki and George Andrews as members on Lorain County Regional Airport Authority. These terms are effective January 1st, 2002 and expire December 31st, 2005.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Approve an advance of $11,397,000 from the County General Fund to the Q Construction Justice Center Fund as part of the overall Justice Center financing plan. The $11,397,000 figure has already been budgeted in the 2001 General Fund and authorized an appropriation in advance of $1.5 million from the County General Fund from unappropriated monies at a $3.6 million that currently exists in the County General Fund to the Q Construction Justice Center Fund.
So moved.
Mr. Okersey?
Yeah, if I may, just take a
He
few...
raised his hand. I thought he had...
Pardon me?
I'm talking to Mr. Cordes.
Oh, okay. I was just raising my hand to indicate that if the board would want more specifics on this as far as what the tentative plan is right now that we're moving into, I can gladly show you what it is.
Okay.
There is.
I'm working on it.
Time is limited.
I'll
Will
second
not.
the motion. And Mr. Cordes, do you want to address this issue first?
I want to address it in conjunction with Mr. Okersey. Things are going well in the Justice Center. I'm very pleased with the direction. Working closely with John on establishing the financing for the Justice Center. What we're asking for here is a commitment of the funding. Not to such an extent that the board can't redirect this financing at some later date. We're leaving a small opportunity to be able to bring that money back because, as Mr. Okersey has amply educated me, and we're making this an advance and not a permanent transfer. If it was a transfer, there would be some major obstacles to overcome to be able to bring the money back to the general fund, but the advance can be repaid from the Q construction account.
Well, then I have a question on that part of it. If you make
Okay.
an advance to this account at the end of the year, is that money still in this account?
Well, that's specific. John, would you come to the podium? Actually, you can speak from there if you want. They got a mic.
I'll go. That's fine.
Well, I believe that it has to be reappropriated because we did make it a permanent transfer. And you do have the ability to change that from an advance to a transfer today if you're committed to the funding. We just wanted to give you some options.
The cash would stay, if this was approved, this resolution, the cash would stay in the Q Construction Justice Center Fund at December 31st. The cash would continue on into the new year. However, the appropriation to lock up that cash would have to be passed by the board in the annual resolution. So the answer to that question, in very simple terms, is the cash would still stay once this would be implemented if the board so choose, and would stay in the Justice Center Fund. However, as Mr. Cordes said, he's absolutely correct. With the advanced terminology used, if the board should deem to bring some of that money back, the cash back after the beginning of the year, legally that option exists.
So why do it then?
That's a good question. A very good question.
It is a good question. The thinking here, I think, is that for several years, the board has approved a plan in the annual appropriation by setting aside at least $10 million a year for the Justice Center. That's a plan. It's the annual appropriation. I think what we're doing here is saying, let's put that plan in effect. Let's now move the money in the annual appropriation general fund over to the Justice Center fund. It's a step that has value. It says we're implementing the plan we have. That plan may change. Any budget may change or plan, but what it's telling everybody is we do have the money. Let's move it. Let's do what we've said we've done for years, and it has merit.
Okay, but you're saying, okay, this is what I have a problem with. We're going to put the money away, but we can take it back, which also means something else. We can also add to it. I would not be opposed to locking up the cash and saying, okay, this money is geared for the Justice Center. Done. And how much are we going to borrow? Done. There's your budget.
My initial desire to go to Q Construction was to make it a permanent transfer of funds, to make a dedication towards the Justice Center. That's an issue before the board.
But that's one. Okay, I can understand having that discussion, but just to go, to me, it looks like smokes and mirrors. Say, okay, we're going to do this. We can take it back if we want. All we're doing is something that, if we're going to do this, let's do it and be done with it. And then we know we have $11,397,000, $100,000 geared in cash to the Justice Center.
Right.
But taking it back, I don't see that happening.
Okay, then all you simply need to do is change the resolution from an advance to Q Construction to a transfer, recognizing that once the transfer is made to Q Construction, it takes a court order and the state...
Yeah,
I think we can comfortably. I think I can go on record to say I think the Justice Center is going to cost us more than $11 million.
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you. So.
Okay.
Okay, John,
I'm just asking that. So.
what do we have in unappropriated? How much money is in
Unappropriated right now, Commissioner, is approximately $3.6 million.
Okay. Would the board be comfortable to take another $3 million out of the unappropriated and appropriate it towards the Justice Center, leaving us $600,000 to play with to the end of the year?
No, ma'am, I have a question. I have a question about all we're talking about. If this money, instead of being advanced to Q Construction, is transferred, where does that, when we go down the road early in the next year in the process, does that mean that we're not going, what does that do to the borrowing is my question.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
What it does to the borrowing is you will not borrow as much money. Anything that goes into Q Construction for the Justice Center, per my discussions with John, will reduce the amount of money that we need to borrow overall on the Justice Center. I originally had a thought, and John and I had many discussions on this, about trying to maximize our borrowing against the Justice Center initially in a note to gain positive arbitrage. I had at one time thought that we could make maybe $500,000 in arbitrage, but with the weakening in the economy and the dropping in the rates, I just don't see it there anymore. I don't see the ability to make any kind of significant money in arbitrage. So with that, I'm not as concerned as I was previously with the level of what we're going to borrow. Before we wanted to maximize our borrowing to gain those economics, it doesn't matter anymore. So what is significant here now is going to be the overall tolerance of what the board wants to borrow, with the understanding we're not going to make the arbitrage. So anything you put in Q Construction at this point will reduce the amount of money that we're ultimately going to borrow against the Justice Center.
Okay,
And that
then, John.
reduces the interest that will be paid on the borrowed money.
That's correct.
And these kids over here won't have to pay that in the next generation.
That's
coming up.
true.
Can
Won't
you
see
tell
that.
me, please, what the balance is in Q Construction now without this transfer? What do you got in Q Construction
Yes,
now?
Commissioner, $8.3 million.
You have $8.3 million, and now you want to add 11.4.
Well, actually, we're asking for 12.5 if the board is generous enough to give us a $1.5 million
Another
infusion.
1.5, so
Yes.
that'll give us 9, 10, 11,
Oh, we had some real-
21.2 million.
That went real quick. I missed that new math. What did we just talk about?
Okay. If you look at the complete resolution, what we're asking for is we have $8.3 million in the Q Construction for the Justice Center
I
at
don't
this
see
point.
that on here.
No, I just asked a
Oh, okay.
question.
So you have $8.3 million already set aside.
Correct. And now we're
Let me
asking...
ask you this. You have $8.3 million set aside. Can we take that money back? Or is that...
Was that an advance or a transfer, John? I don't recall.
The
one time
8.3,
we
that
had
was
$2
a
million.
permanent transfer to
So we
encumber
already
funds
have
for the
8
architect and the
So we already
construction.
have 8.3 that we already just transferred that we cannot take back, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Hey, guys.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
But at one point, we had 10 million in there, so that's been reduced almost 2 million.
Okay,
That's because
so
we've
that,
been working on it.
that gives you 19.7 million with the 11, well, let's call it 11,400,000, okay? Just round it off. Now, we're also asking for an additional $1.5 million from unappropriated monies to be put in that Q construction. Okay?
Calculator time. So you're talking...
We only have 3 numbers here, Commissioner.
Yeah, it's got up there.
I'm dying to show my flip chart.
I need something stronger than a peppermint mat right now.
That would give you roughly $21.2 million, Commissioner, with the 1.5.
I could bring this on.
No, no,
Got the
no.
8, 11, and
Very strong.
1.5.
If I may, I'll just outline this with the board's permission.
No,
Well-
no, I'm
This
just...
kind of summarizes both resolutions, or at least...
Okay, now let's talk about something else I'll throw a monkey wrench in. We haven't decided how much we're going to borrow yet. Do you guys feel that we should wait until we make that decision?
You can't.
Well,
Can't wait until you know if we actually, how much we have in there.
Actually, if you look at these numbers today and you make a commitment to Q Construction, I have one more element that we want to introduce, is possibly moving some money from the bond retirement, correct, John?
That's correct.
And if we look at that element, then you can establish the level you want to borrow at today for the Justice Center, and that would make it easier for John and I to know what we're going to the marketplace with in February or March.
Right, I'd rather start getting the ball rolling on our borrowing costs right now than...
Yeah, but it may be possible because it's going to take 2 years before, at least 2 years before the Justice Center is up. So we may be able to put some more money aside between now and then.
Well,
But we can retire the debt then with that. I'm just saying the rates are so cheap, since, well,
Yes.
before I was born. So, I mean, you're talking, we might as well take advantage of it the next 3-4 months
You go out and borrow.
and just borrow I've already said publicly that I agreed to go from 12 million to 20 million in borrowing. And it looks like with these numbers, we're really close to hitting the number that you guys wanted,
Yes.
of 45.3.
correct.
So although I have a problem with allocating the funds, maybe it's something where if we can stick to the numbers, basically we'll be all locked in on the cash, we'll be locked in on the borrowing, and there's our numbers. I'm comfortable with that.
And then what are you saying then? If we do have additional money to put towards it later, we can just put it against the note, the borrowing?
I'm just saying everybody now has some numbers they have to work with because that's the money.
Right. If you follow this plan as outlined here, Commissioner, we'll have roughly $21.2 million. Hold up for that for a second, John.
Yeah, plus the 5,
Because you have other elements there, without the 5. We haven't talked about the 5 yet.
Well, that's okay. I'm not worried about, I understand the funds.
Okay. Well, let me explain for the audience then, what's left of the audience anyway.
Try to get this for everybody. I don't know if
Lorain
it's going
County
to work.
Transit's a lot more exciting than I guess the Justice
Absolutely.
Center.
Yeah.
We're also going to be discussing with the board when we work out some of the nuances of code requirements to possibly move an additional $5 million from bond retirement to these funds. As Mr. Roper has pointed out, that would give you an overall, how much in Q construction, John?
26.2.
Yeah, right now we have 8.3 million, Jim, and these would be additions today, these 2 line items, if approved. And with the $5 million, I think the board has a lot to be proud of to show that they've got over $26 million in the bank to pay for a $45 million Justice Center. The board has 58% of the cost of that entire building in the bank right now, with only 42% or 19 million.
Well, we don't necessarily have it in the bank. We have to get that $5 million out of Q construction. Out of bond retirement. And that's not...
We're not doing
right.
that today.
Correct.
That's not part of what we're talking about.
Correct. Today, you will end up with 21.2 million and, some change there
That's correct.
in your Q construction account. So if we didn't do anything further, we'd be looking at approximately $24 million in borrowing. Right, you would
If
have
you didn't
21...
Oh, we didn't do this.
Right, if we did not do anything with the $5 million in bond retirement, you'd be looking at roughly $24 million in borrowing. We will bring the issue of bringing some bond retirement money into the Q construction at a later date, hopefully to reduce the amount of borrowing down to a $19 to $21 million level.
But what
I'd like
about...
to ask, why are we talking about doing that at a later date? Why can't we do it now?
There's some tricky language in the code that we have not worked out yet. Is that correct, or did you?
Yeah, exactly, Jim, and board. There's $5 million in the bond retirement fund, and our requirements, extra requirements to get that out of bond retirement fund. But I think the important thing is it is there.
Oh, that
and
has
if
to go
board
before the
so-
court. We have to get court's approval on that.
We're working through the issue, Commissioner, and I know the
Okay.
desires of the board, but like I said, there is some nuances of the code that
All right.
John and I are working on at this time, and we weren't able to resolve those issues prior to wanting to move this money to Q
Okay, got it.
construction.
Okay, now this seems fine because the math all adds up. Now let's back up a little bit. How much money were we going to use out of the recycled grant funds in this project? Shouldn't, if we were going to use $1 million to recarpet the building, shouldn't we subtract $1 million from that 45.3 and go 44.3?
Let me help you with that, too. It's a very valid question. I don't have those costs recognized yet, and I will recognize them before we borrow. So that would reduce our borrowing number.
I just have a problem committing to cash when we haven't committed to borrowing. I would rather go the other way around, commit to borrowing, and then say, okay, let's work on our cash.
Works for me either way, Commissioner.
Well, I mean, that's just, I don't want to end up borrowing $40 million when we're all said and done.
I think that right now what we're looking at, I've had individual discussions with each commissioner over the last year on various issues of funding, and John and I have talked weekly on this. There seems to be a desire on part of the board to want to pay off as much of this without borrowing if we can. There's other desires that say we don't want to borrow more than $20 million. Somewhere in between that lies the board's as a combined position. Right now, I don't see any need to borrow anything above $20 million for the Justice Center or less. And that less will be determined sometime in February, March. We have to recognize the funding for solid waste and some of the floor coverings that would be coming off the borrowing. I realize the way you like to segue into this, Commissioner, and it's very appropriate. It's just that we've been pursuing a different avenue, but I think the outcome is going to be the same. If you like to establish your borrowing tolerance right now, we can absolutely do that and work from that borrowing tolerance to make the program a success.
Yeah,
John, what do you...
The only thing I can add to Mr. Cordes, I agree with what he's saying, by the way, is that, again, I have to go back to the concept of a plan. All plans we'd like to keep in track with, but every plan should have flexibility, and I believe that's what Commissioner Moore maybe is alluding to, that maybe not. But I think what we're looking at is, well, let me put it this way. Let me back up. Let me back up on that. I think, let me say that I'm alluding, or I should be stating what I'm doing, to say that this is a plan in place, and what it does, it saes we've had a plan in place since 1994 when we put money aside, and we can't change to whatever
Just a minute,
degree.
John. I think the question before us, you're trying to give us information, and I appreciate that, but the question is not exactly the same.
Right.
During your discussion, did I hear you say that you would like to authorize the borrowing now because the interest rates are so low?
I think we should. I think
Okay,
it's going
well,
to
I'd
take
like
at least
to
90 days. I think it's going to take us, what?
Okay,
How long is it going to take us to do the borrowing for $20 million?
Let me jump on this for
I don't want to say authorize it, but maybe get the discussion going before we go to lock it in, I guess.
a couple issues.
Okay.
I think what I believe we're discussing is the borrowing tolerance level. We really want to try to have this thing what Moody's done so that we can get a lower rate before we go out to the
Now, well,
market.
let me say this, then. You've already talked to all three of us. Do you feel that we are very close on our borrowing tolerances?
Yes.
Okay,
I
then maybe,
do.
so it shouldn't be as big an issue as I'm making it, maybe?
Well, I like you, always like to know where I'm working from because it makes it easy to get someplace when I know where I'm starting. Okay?
I never know where I'm starting.
Well, okay. If the board wants to pass a resolution today, and it'd be a little bit ceremonial.
Nah, I don't think we need to do that then. It sounds like to me then. My concern is that we end up borrowing 25 or 30 million
At the present-
6 months from now, and I'm like, and here I am voting for something that,
At the present time, I do not see the need, if we're able to deal with the bond retirement fund issue, and John and I are working on that, I do not see the need to borrow any more than 20 million or less, and that number's going to
which I
decrease.
agree, but we're also using a lot of cash, and next year, who knows how much cash we're going to have, and who knows, I mean, we're in this...
Exactly. I don't disagree. That's why we made the transfers, the allocation of the funds in advance rather than a transfer.
Which I still...
If you make the transfer, it's a permanent commitment. I'm looking for the transfer, quite frankly. I'm responsible for getting your building up, and I like to know that our funding is rock secure. That would make me happy, but I would want to leave the board whatever wiggle room you felt you needed.
So if you're looking to transfer funds, you're looking to transfer right now 11.3 or 11.4, you're looking to go 12.9 with an additional 1.5.
12.9, Commissioner.
So you're looking at taking 1.5 million out of, we're voting on really two issues.
Yes, you are.
Issue number one, which would be to take out of the 3.6, 1.5, and give it to, and just allocate it to the justice. That's what you want to do?
Yes, that's what I want to do.
Which we did that at what, 4 months ago? Didn't we take 800 or 900,000 and do
I
that?
think it was 1.3, wasn't it, John?
It was
Out of the general
approximately
fund?
2.1. and
Was it
then we had
2.1 we took
transfers
already?
after that.
So we already took 2.1 out, now we're taking another 1.5 out of general fund, right?
Yeah, it
Correct.
summary-
That's correct, Commissioner.
summarize it there.
Okay. So you're asking for 1.5 plus 11.4, so now we have to decide whether or not to just give it away and let it lock in, or...
Well, you're not giving it away, Commissioner.
I don't want to give away, transfer it over to the right account.
Well, let me say this, okay, while we're thinking about this. There is a motion on the floor to approve item number 35 as it appears on the agenda, which is as an advance.
Okay.
I mean, that's how this whole discussion started, and I think it was a legitimate and good discussion.
Okay.
But since there may be some concern about where we're going next year, it probably would be sufficient to approve this as an advance today and let them continue to work on it, and then they can come back next year after they've got the budget numbers assimilated for 2002 and firmed up a little better, and ask for the permanent transfer.
Or we can make it as a transfer now, because we will still have 3.6 million in unappropriated.
Only
So
if you
if
don't
that's
approve the additional 1.5. You approve the additional 1.5, you will have $1.9 million left in unappropriated.
Right. If I may interject on
No,
this transfer...
2.1 million, excuse me, is 3.6 million, and you're talking to
Right,
approve
sorry.
1.5, it leaves 2.1 million,
Right.
okay?
Sorry.
Now, let's just talk about that,
Okay, left. Okay.
Right.
all right?
If I may interject...
No,
just-
I don't, no, please, thank you, John.
I see what you're saying.
I'm trying to go someplace with this. I want to get it done. It's a quarter after 12. Could we agree to that at this point? This way, it's not cast in stone, but it's the first step down the path.
Now, what are you saying, change the advance to a transfer?
Then,
No, I'm suggesting that you made the motion to approve it the way
Right.
it's listed on the
As an
agenda, and
advance.
I seconded it as an advance. Yes.
then why do it? If we
Well,
take
I
it
would-
back? I'm asking...
Well, but we don't anticipate that we're going to take it back.
Okay, but I thought we just said, I heard you say that when John comes back to show us what the numbers are for next year, then we'll be able to decide whether to keep it there or not.
Right. To keep it there as a transfer to the Q Construction.
I mean,
Okay, I will amend my motion to make it a transfer instead of an advance.
now you want to lock in 12 point... Oh, okay.
If I may, that's a very, very important point on transfer versus advance. Let me, if I may, read an excerpt from the county auditor, the chief fiscal officer of the county, on this very same issue of transfer and advances. Here's what he says, and I'm quoting. First of all, the request to transfer, again, the word here is transfer, $11,397,000 from the general fund to the Q Construction Fund will create a permanent movement of funds that would require a common pleas court order and approval from the Department of Taxation to pay back the general fund. An advance of the money, on the other hand, would not require this action. Of course, if it is the intent of the Board of Commissioners to forego potential recoupment of these monies, barring a court order and Department of Taxation action, then a transfer would be understandable. So
That's what we're facing with the bond issue
we're
here.
being admonished by the county auditor very carefully on what our intent is.
So really, that's 40.
So that's what we're facing with that $5 million in bond issue right
He's
now.
got 8300,
Well,
11.3.
We've got several discussions going on here.
Right. Am I out?
The issue here that Mr. Stewart is addressing is
Now,
are these
I-
You want us
items right
just to
here.
stick so you can take the money back?
Yes, no, I don't. No, Commissioner, I
No,
don't.
it's a first step.
I want it to be permanent, and I'll tell you why. Let's talk about this for a minute. We're going to determine what our, start heading in direction, determine what our borrowing level is. Let's say we don't leave a way of taking the money back, and something goes awry in the county next year. You still have the ability to borrow money, so whether you take it from this pool, you take it from that pool, you still have the ability, you're still going to have to borrow it. So lock up your justice center money now. Decide what your borrowing tolerances are. Do it now. Make it permanent. And if we run into a problem, we'll borrow money against something else next year. It's still borrowing. Sorry, I don't mean to make it that simple, but it really is that
What
simple.
are you suggesting then?
I'm suggesting you move forward and you make this a transfer of money and you make it permanent and you live with it.
Well, why didn't it appear on the agenda that way in the first place?
Because we were trying to give you some options for discussions. Sorry. I made it too simple.
No, you didn't. You made it open for discussion for everybody. That's what you did, which is good.
Okay, Betty, would
Sorry.
you accept the amendment in your motion, in your second?
I don't think she made a second, did you? Yeah,
Yes,
you
I did.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right,
she
you did.
seconded it.
Way back a half hour ago.
Pardon me?
No, I'll second it, because I believe that's part of the structure that we've been working forward to. It puzzles me why it was put in this fashion to begin with.
As
It
an
should have been,
advance.
it should have been put on the agenda as a transfer, the way it was originally discussed. So yes, I will agree with you as a seconder of the motion to approve a transfer of 11 million as it reads, and the rest is the same. Okay?
So you have 11.4 that's already been allocated,
If this is approved.
transfer.
but it was never actually transferred into the account, but we just have it set aside. Jim?
But we're already...
You already
we're
have
also
11.4
transferring.
that's there, right, Jen? That hasn't been transferred.
11.4, correct, sir.
It's in the general fund. It's been sitting there,
Right.
which that one would have been fine. And now what we're doing is we're voting on two things. We're voting on
Right.
transferring the 11.4, and we're voting on transferring 1.5 million.
Correct.
Okay, and that's going to be a
From the general
transfer
fund.
also then?
Yes.
That's not going to be an advance?
Correct.
Then we need to change that word to a transfer
Yes.
also?
So you have two different issues coming in here that we have to vote once on, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Do we understand what we're doing now?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we all in agreement?
Well, we'll find out when we vote.
Okay.
As a simple recap before you vote, that'll leave you with roughly $21.2 million completely committed to your Justice Center
Absolutely.
construction
In
And
cash.
hopefully another 5
in
million.
cash.
21 million.
Point two.
You just had to put it two together. You couldn't have gone separate.
I realize what you want to reduce that down a bit, and we bring in other issues back to you. But this establishes some firm criteria that we're operating under.
Correct.
Very good.
Madam Clerk, will
getting
you
there.
please call the roll?
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
No.
After all that? Okay.
Well, let me say
Okay,
this for saying no, though. I agree with the transfer of the 11.5 or 11.4. I agree with that. But it was only one motion, so.
You have a problem with the other part of the motion?
Yeah, I had a problem with the 1.5.
Which one?
Transferring that.
The 1.5 now?
Yeah. But that's okay. We can move on. We're almost done.
Oh, hooray. Thank you.
And the reporters fell asleep on us over there.
No snoring. Okay, Mr. Cordez.
Okay.
Commissioner Moore thought he was almost done.
Oh, come on.
I have a couple issues.
No.
Obviously, the commission's read the newspaper this morning, wonderful Lorain Journal. Reported on some activities with the Lorain City Port Authority desiring to join our health care plan. I have dialogued individually, I believe, with each member of this board previously, so it shouldn't have been no big surprise. I just didn't realize the swiftness that was going to be reported on. I have met with Mr. Nowak from the Port Authority. They do want to join our health care plan. They are agreeable to our terms and conditions, our reserve factors, etc. I'd like to request a resolution for Mr. Fote and myself to complete the requirements, enter into a contract, establish terms and conditions for the reserve payment, which will probably be over 3 years like we did in Sheffield Village, and to allow the Lorain City Port Authority to join the county's health care plan effective January 1st, 2002.
Also move.
Second?
Discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy? Aye. Mr. Moore?
Aye. Mr. Foat and I also spent some time in Sheffield Lake discussing Sheffield Lake's issues with healthcare and some problems they're having out there with cost. I have a letter here from Len English, which is a letter of interest, which is turned from interest to deep desire. Sheffield Lake would like to join the county's healthcare plan effective 1 December 2001. It looks to me from talking to them, we're probably going to be able to partner with them and save the city somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to $600,000 over what they're anticipating paying next year on their health care. Those are just my numbers, but they're talking about what the premium they told me that they would be paying next year and what we're paying is significant. And it's significant enough that they indicated to us that they can avoid layoffs in the city by doing this with us. I'm pleased that we've been working with them.
Are they in the alliance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So once again, I would like to give Mr. Foley an opportunity. If you have anything to add, I haven't given him that opportunity. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Not really.
That also helps.
I'll be following up
helps us too.
on it.
Yeah, it also helps us too.
It's a win-win.
Well, it is, and this is a large group. There's about 80.
You're going to let you talk, Jeff?
We tried to. We didn't have anything to
I don't have
say.
anything to say. We'll follow up. We'll do the standard stuff to make sure that we don't have any problems with what we're buying into, that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess I'm asking the board for a resolution to authorize Mr. Foat and myself once again to complete the contractual terms, discuss the requirements of paying the reserves, and reach an agreement with the city of Sheffield Lake to join the county's health care plan effective 1 December 2001.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy? Aye.
Thank you. I would also like to inform the board that we are in somewhat of a negotiation with one of our larger villages south of us to also join the plan, and hopefully we'll be successful in that. I also have discussed with Mr. Ennis our ability to allow some of these jurisdictions to join in our life insurance program. We have a very good rate. Some of the smaller political subdivisions cannot achieve success at getting a good rate because of their size, similar with healthcare, and there has been a considerable amount of interest, and we're looking at that issue. And this might be a good issue with the Community Alliance, as Commissioner Moore pointed out, to be able to bring governmental agencies closer and use the buying power of a large group. I'm also pleased to inform the board that we have undertaken some issues with the courts concerning the DH. Specifically, you know, we privatized and then we privatized the medical at the county jail. We found that not to be cost effective at the end of the contract because of the increases. We moved away from Wexford as the company and we moved back into doing it ourselves. The detention home also had Wexford providing taking care of those issues for them. I have had discussions with the court administrators. They wish to move away from Wexford. We're reaching a cooperative agreement with the jail that you'll be seeing in the future, where there'll be some nurse sharing between the DH and the jail. I've also, last night, secured an agreement with Medical Mutual to administer claims under a similar arrangement that we had for the jail with Lorain Memorial Hospital, where we'll be getting discounts on those claims. And same thing to Higgins and Amherst to provide pharmacy services. So that, just want to give you a little prelude to what's coming on those issues. But that'll conclude our relationship with Wexford once we finish this up. And Sheriff Stametti and Susan Moore from the court should be closing out those issues within a few days. So we've been actively pursuing the DH. And I think that's something Commissioner Vacy had spoken to when we did the jail issue. Since we've been here so long, I don't have anything else that needs to be discussed here. Thank you.
You don't?
I don't think I do I?
Okay.
Oh, the bill.
You're going to ring our bell.
Okay. Maybe I do have something else. The bell, I thought you were going to bring the bell up, Commissioner Vacy, but we go
Well,
ahead.
I thought you were going to
Well, somebody
tell
talk
us
about it.
some more information. I thought you accumulated some more information that you were going to give us.
And I did. The state sent us a letter in between our last discussion concerning casting the bicentennial bell in Lorain County. They are asking for 3 locations and events that they could possibly select from that would fit into their schedule and be able to allow them to cast a bell here in Lorain County. In talking with some of the members of the board here, we have a couple places that could happen. One, I think, would probably be the most desirable, which would be the county fair in August, to have them cast the bell right there at the county fair. It requires a couple days of work.
You're getting us some agreement already. Well, it's nice to know somebody appreciates you.
Yeah, really.
But I think that would be the most desirable location, although, once again, we can prioritize these. We're not guaranteed that it's going to fit into their schedule. The second could be the International Fest in Lorain City, which is a highly intensive, a lot of heads over there from the young ladies that I know, but that's probably the second largest event that takes place in Lorain County. The third event, which is another large event that occurs in our second largest city, could be during the Apple Fest. I looked at the requirements that they have, and we could provide for those issues on county property, which is contiguous to where the downtown fair is. The fourth and a fallback position would be that the college, through the Public Service Institute, has agreed that if we wanted to have something just for the bell, if we couldn't get one of those dates, that they'd be willing to work with us and put something on at the college. And they have adequate resources out there to do that. That would be like, the fallback to the fallback to the fallback. But what I'd like to do is send a letter to the Bicentennial Bell Commission, indicate the dates of those 3 events in that priority, and tell them that those are our desires, if it's agreeable to the board.
What's the priority again?
And this young lady says that they're on the Junior Fair Board, and they would help us out with that issue.
Would be the county fair,
County Fair is 1.
followed by the International Fest in Lorain,
2.
which is our largest city, followed by the Apple Fest, which is our second largest city in Elyria.
And then
the
the
college.
4th would be the college, or there's also the 3rd largest city, which is North Ridgeville's Court Festival. So the others, I'm just saying, there's other issues.
I wasn't going to add the college on our letter to the state, but if
You're
they're
just gonna
not
put
able
3
to
on there
pick
then?
any of those 3, then we may have other issues.
Okay, so you're just going to put the 3 on there then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And those dates, like fair dates, if there's the 3 dates, if they couldn't do it in one day, on one day, then they can always pick another.
Sure.
Okay, so what do you need, a
I'll give them the
resolution, or
time
just
stamp.
the 3 of us say yes, do it, or what?
Well, I think he's offering this as a suggestion. So are you favorable with his?
I'm favorable.
Okay. All right, fine. Do you need a motion, or are you favorable?
I'm fine writing the letter just by seeing
Okay.
the concurrence of the board.
Okay, very good.
Commissioner Boyd, do you want me to?
I don't know, is that something that needs to be addressed today?
Well, it has to do with, you all received some correspondence from the linkage program concerning their lack of funding. Obviously, the grant money started diminishing earlier in the year. We supplemented them. They're going to be asking for an infusion of cash from the general fund. So, rather matter of fact, let's put it this way. They're asking to become a general fund agency, a new general fund agency. Previously, they had been funded from almost completely from outside sources. I did discuss this briefly with each commissioner. Commissioner Vacy did have some other questions on the matter that I have not been able to get to. I believe we just discussed it just yesterday on some of her thoughts. The courts are looking to maintain linkage as a judicial function. Quite frankly, I had talked with the commissioners on possibly having that as a commissioner's function, and we could maybe piggyback this together with the referral center that Commissioner Vacy had been talking about for some time. So there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed with this. We will have to address this within the next 3 or 4 weeks because their funding will expire at the end of the year. So if we don't fund them or we don't give an indication that we're going to fund them, they will not be able to carry into the next year.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Assistant Prosecutor, Jerry Ennis.
No report.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Just before we start the commissioners' reports, I want to tell you that I have to leave in 45 minutes, and we have an executive session yet.
Oh,
So,
that means we got to talk for 45 minutes.
Means we better talk fast.
thank you. Commissioner Vacy?
Yes, ma'am. Captain Drozdowski is here, so I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you if you can inform us where we're at with that crisis intervention training. I thought it was supposed to take place in November here. See, you just got picked on because you were here.
Reference that crisis intervention, there is a meeting tomorrow
Oh, good.
by Midway Mall, the mental health facility over there, the offices. I don't know exactly what the name of the building is, but there is a meeting between, our department's going to be there, Amy Levin from mental health, Lieutenant Woody's going to be there. There was a letter sent out from what I understand. I don't know exactly who sent the letter out, but it's 9:30. We're going to sit down and discuss the whole crisis intervention program and how we can facilitate it into Lorain County. Instead of us going to Akron, bringing it to here, exposing it to all the police agencies and any agencies that want to get involved. So it has been a continuing effort, and like it says, at 9:30 tomorrow morning, there is a meeting to discuss all this. So it is continuing.
Good. Glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I can report on what I found out in Florida, but I'm going to wait. I took some pictures out there, and I have some information that packets like this, and I haven't been able to sort it out yet. But I'll bring you that information probably next week.
Thank you.
Are we having a meeting next week?
29th.
The 20. Well, okay, the 29th.
Thank you.
Thanksgiving next week.
Okay. Commissioner Moore?
Well, I'll pass today.
Yeah, since it's such a lengthy meeting we've had here.
Yeah. I was going to read the notes, but I'll leave her alone. I've been dinner enough today.
All right, and I'll follow suit then, okay? So, old business, anybody? I hope not.
No.
New business, anyone? I hope not, except for what's on the agenda, executive session. I move the reading of the board correspondence be
Second.
waived.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Public comment. 3 minutes or less. Mr. Kish will allow this gentleman, because he's new, to come first.
Tracy, you need this back?
Yes.
Please state your name, sir.
Okay,
Yes. My name is Robert Dempsey. I live in Henrietta Township. I appreciate the opportunity. 3 minutes, no problem.
Thank you.
I come before the commissioners today to express my concerns regarding the county auditor's steward's program of posting people's personal property, pictures, and videotapes on the internet. Sometime around October 13th, the auditor indulged in a program that places pictures and video and property values on the internet. Not only do I consider this a gross invasion of my privacy, but an immediate threat to my family's safety and well-being. President Bush has stated that personal safety starts at the local level, and it's my opinion that the auditor's program of posting private property and industrial commercial properties associated with the GPS coordinates does not make us safer, but rather provides easy access and information that will be used against us. The auditor's program must have criminals and other undesirable people rather happy. Previously, I had outlined some of my concerns in a letter to each of you commissioners, and the letter was later published in the editorial pages of both the Chronicle-Telegram and the Morning Journal. However, I thought I should address you publicly. I serve as a captain with the Elyria Fire Department, and my wife is an internationally known researcher for NASA. Without a doubt, the program is a direct threat to both my wife and I and our families. I feel confident members of the prosecutor's office, fire and police personnel, as well as politicians, would consider having their personal residence posted on the internet as a threat to their family's security. If it is a concern for them, then it's most certainly a concern for all the rest of the county residents. And private criminals can now easily find where senior citizens, single mothers live, the value of their property, and now, with the auditor's help, pictures and videos that show where the entry and exit points are, and what in their house, as well as their bedrooms and where they sleep. Again, the auditor's program does nothing for the people of the county, but does present potentially a grave threat to them. Regarding commercial and industrial properties, someone can find out the locations and critical information of our chemical plants and other properties that could be sabotaged and then endanger people of Lorain County. Recent national events have shown, terrorists aren't dumb. They can figure this stuff out. In closing, I have not been able to get satisfaction from the auditor's office other than to find out that the program is costing us $250,000. I'm respectfully requesting the commissioners to assist in putting an end to the auditor's program of posting pictures and videotapes on the internet of people's personal property. I would also be interested in knowing how each of you feel about the program personally with your property and your personal home and your families, and feel that the program just should be stopped. And I'm asking for your help.
Thank you, Captain Dempsey.
We asked Jim to contact the auditor to come before us for a public discussion, did we not? 2 weeks ago?
Yes, we did, and the auditor responded that he would come to one of our administrative sessions. However, we didn't have an administrative session that week. It was the week when we canceled our board meeting.
I have received some input from board members here that they wanted it to occur at a public hearing, not an administrative session. And as I indicated to you the day you asked me to facilitate this, I could not time Mr. Stewart make him come to a public meeting. And he does not want to come to a public meeting to discuss this issue.
You had discussed it with him?
We received a letter from him, and it's been discussed with him. I personally did not discuss it with him. Madam Clerk, before she went on medical leave, was the one having the discussion, because I directed her. It's her responsibility to have people come here. He understands the board's position.
I see John's trying to leave real quick here. John? Can't leave yet.
Well, just to put that, I've been in contact with that office, but he's been on vacation, and he would like to come to administration briefing.
Well, my issue is administration. We're the ones getting the letters. We're the ones getting contacted. What I'm wondering is, it's the funds. Is he using his own funds for this program, or is this coming out of other funds that we can control?
No, he is not using general fund money, Commissioner. He is using other special revenue funds for it.
So pretty much he has control of the funds and how to spend that money, and are we the pass-through agency in which we can vote on this, or?
Well, the board controls the appropriation, so in that sense, the board can control the level of appropriation for these expenditures. However, it's been normally the practice that once the board approves the annual appropriation in these special revenue funds, the managers, the elected officials do what they deem. But the board has influence. The bottom line is the board can
we have a problem with an elected official
and can work with the auditor on that.
But we don't have an elected official who wants to come and speak before the public regarding the issues that we're getting beat up on.
Well, just a little question.
Right,
Teresa's made a statement. Are you still working with the auditor's office in scheduling this, but?
Sylvia, which is Mark Stewart's assistant, was to call me back, and I have not received a call back.
Okay. And then my question to you, John, is this is a special revenue fund? We appropriate the money at the beginning of the year.
That's correct.
Does he have to come back for approval of the expenses of that special revenue, or is he free to spend it without our input?
He comes back to the Board of Commissioners for those expenditures.
Okay, so but we don't usually question, is what you were
That's correct.
Say. Okay, and the other issue is that apparently this, correct me if I'm wrong, this program and expenditure has already received approval.
Right.
Okay. But we weren't told what he was going to use it for.
No, I think it's been going on for 5 years, though.
But I just wanted to point out that we're talking about, Captain Dempsey said something about us ending the program. I think it's something that's already transpired. I'm not sure that what the legal ramifications of something like that would be.
Commissioner, let me point out 2 things, please. One is that anybody that had property appraised in the last several years, those photos were already on the auditor's database. They were already scanning those photos into the database. So if you recently refinanced your house in the last few years, that information was out there already. The information that wasn't out there already was those folks that have owned their homes for some time and haven't refinanced. Anytime you've had an appraisal done the last few years, that data was scanned in.
But we were never informed, the public was never informed that a picture of our home is in the computer.
No, I think when you're saying refinance, I think what's going on is when the county has appraised the property, reevaluated, because just because you refinance a home doesn't mean the auditor's going to get a copy of that picture.
He has been getting them.
Well, then that's something else that he's been,
And unfortunately,
that's above and beyond the call of refinancing.
well, Commissioners, those, I don't want to...
That's why we need to have the auditor in here to explain it in detail, wouldn't you think? Am I wrong on this, or am I being kind of...
No, I'm not taking a side on this issue. I'm merely stating that, we're indicating that this issue just started recently, and what I'm alluding to here is that this has been going on for some time. What this program is doing is filling in the rest of the holes. If you have had your property, not the government appraising it, if you've had an appraisal done, and they take photos in those appraisals, those photos have been being put into the database on the auditor's records for some time now. So I'll just leave you with that information. The second issue is concerning Sylvia and Mr. Stewart. Prior to the last letter received, I had direct discussion with Mr. Snodgrass, who is Mr. Stewart's chief assistant, concerning the board's desire to come to a public hearing, which resulted in a letter saying he would come only to an administrative hearing. So let me clarify that issue.
I'm sorry, but I brought the issue forward, and it set a specific administrative date, and we were not available that date, so I didn't know as that meant he wouldn't come to any public meeting.
Yeah, I made my inquiries to Mr. Snodgrass, and I was rather pointed with him, resulted in a letter saying I will come to an administrative session. It wasn't just at that specific day because we weren't meeting. It's an administrative session of what's being counter-offered to your desire to have it in the public hearing. Right. And I'm not sure that we're going to see a changing in that position, and that's pursuant to my discussions with Mr. Snodgrass, not with Mr. Stewart. So I just don't want to leave you with the thinking that we've just started this program. This is something that's been underway for some time, but not everybody refinances their house, so they don't have a complete catalog of the photos and so forth. And that's what they're doing right now.
Well, I personally would go on record as saying I agree with you. I believe that that should be something that is not put on into the computer. And if there are photographs in the computer already, they should be removed. And if there's any way possible that this board could force the auditor to do this, I'd like to see us do it. I don't know how my colleagues feel, but that's where I stand on it.
I got a letter received from a client asking to be removed. I forwarded it to the... Did we send it to the assistant prosecutor, or did we send it to the auditor, or both? Do you remember what we did with it? Can't remember. Prosecutor, I think I sent it to your office, Jerry, just for review to see, because what I'm getting is people saying they want this done, they want their houses blacked out, and so I figured if I went to you first, maybe we could expedite that a little bit.
And for the benefit of Captain Dempsey, this matter was referred to the prosecutor by the commissioners for his input. And Jerry, would you like to tell us what your response was, please?
Well, the question came to me, and incidentally, I talked with Captain Dempsey over the phone, whether it was legal, and what Mr. Stewart is doing is legal, so it then becomes a policy issue here.
Isn't that an invasion of our privacy?
Well, that's some of the discussion I had with Mr. Dempsey. And I indicated to him that under the current status of the law, it's my opinion that it is not. Now, obviously there are degrees if they're going into people's backyards and taking pictures of people in their private lives, which I do not think they're doing.
Yeah, but they probably are. Excuse me, Jerry, but if they're randomly taking pictures, now I believe I passed this van the other day and the window was down on it and there's looked to me like a video camera, extended from the window. And I'm thinking, okay, these people don't know when they're going by their house, so they could be doing anything in their yard. And
well,
not only what we're talking about here, but our license plate numbers. I mean, if our cars are parked in the yard, we're giving people information that...
I think we all came to the same conclusion that we wanted to talk to Mr. Stewart and find out what's happening. I mean, we're guessing and we're surmising, and
So what you're saying is this is more of a policy issue, not a legal issue now, whether or not the auditor...
well, at least based on what I know.
Okay, because they've always had the aerial photos of subdivisions and aerial photos of
Right.
homes, which I don't see a threat. But I see
What's been told to me is that all they're doing is driving by and taking photos of the front of people's houses, and certainly anybody can do that. That's I would agree with everybody. If they're coming around taking pictures of the backyard.
But the difference what you have now versus what we've had in the past is the access of information at anyone's home or anywhere in the country.
They just transferred it to the internet.
So really, it's
to make
kind of
easier
I'd
access.
see it as a new issue, and that's why I was hoping the auditor would come and speak, and maybe we could come to, maybe if it is a policy decision, that maybe we can come to a consensus on, at least see how the three of us feel about it, and the community that would show up on that day. I would hate to have them just show up. I'd like to have it planned so we can announce the meeting, because we are getting a lot of correspondence, and then maybe have a good discussion on what we think the policies are, and see if we can come to some consensus here. So that's kind of what I was hoping to see, and I guess Mr. Cortez might have to work a little bit harder on getting that.
Could I beg Mr. Cortez's pardon for a second?
What's that?
I'd like to beg Mr. Cortez's pardon for 1 second. The article in the paper, October 13th, that stated that this white van was going to be coming around. Begging your pardon, that's new. We haven't been videotaping people's houses before October 13th, have we?
Oh, no, sir.
So that part of the program is a new program.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I thought you said that it wasn't a new program, that this has been going on for years.
Well,
maybe I misunderstood.
And maybe I misstated, sir. And I'm not supporting or not supporting this issue at all. The van going around filling in the holes, missing photos is new. And
They're doing all homes, aren't they?
Excuse me?
They're doing all homes.
I don't know if they're doing all of the ones that are missing. I know for some time that they've been scanning in photos of appraised properties and putting them on that database down there.
The auditor's office informed me 125,000 parcels exist in Lorain County. At a cost of $2 per parcel. They'll be videotaping every parcel, hence $250,000, wherever the money's coming from. But so they're doing them all, and they would be videotaping your bushes, your doorways, your trees. I'm sure the prosecutors, the law enforcement community, those people would feel threatened by that kind of...
no doubt. And again, I wasn't taking a position so much as that there's been photos in there. They're probably updating, and it makes sense. They're on the streets, so they'll probably update the photos they have. Let me tell you how I became aware of this, just so you know. I checked the auditor's records on my own parcel property and found a photo from an appraisal I had done a few years ago. And I don't even have the vehicles that are parked in the driveway anymore. So I know where that photo came from, and it came from appraisals. So this has been going on for some time. And then I investigated further to find out, how that was being done, and they've been using the appraisal photo. So I only recently became aware of that issue myself.
So they had pictures of your vehicles too then?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't concern you?
I'm going to try to maintain a certain posture of neutrality on this.
I think it concerns a lot of people that in this community that really would feel threatened, as well as by salespeople, aluminum siding salesmen, whomever, senior citizens, single moms, people, because you can research all this information to value your property, how much you paid for your house, and all this stuff is information that's public knowledge, but do we have to broadcast it on the internet?
Right, and one of the issues that's there, I think that's concerning to you, and Jerry spoke to the frontal photos, but let me take it one step further. There's also now available on a lot of these is a schematic drawing of where all the rooms in your house are and so forth.
That's true. I have copies of mine I obtained today.
So that as far as gaining information, I can understand the position of a lot of the public. Before, if somebody wants to break into your house, at least they're going in not knowing, where all your rooms are in your house. But now, with those schematic drawings, I don't know if they're available for all buildings, but it does say, where the bedrooms are and the hallways and the bathrooms.
You want to throw a bomb through your bedroom window, now they know where it's at, right?
I think as long as we got some concerned citizens, as long as you guys keep up your pressure, maybe we'll have a nice public discussion soon.
Thanks, I'll be back.
Okay.
And thank you, Captain Dempsey. Mr. Kish?
Well, Mr. Kish, Larry, I'm a concerned citizen too, so concerned that not only that, I've got an unlisted phone number. And a lot of people pay extra for that. Perhaps there should be the other way around. If you take a photo someplace, somebody's published in a newspaper, You're required, I believe, as a photographer to get a release or to pay the person for the photo. We may have no income. Anyhow, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right on that. 10 years ago, I found a baby on my woodlot. Day-old baby boy, blue-eyed right here. Privacy Act is so specific, I'm not allowed to know anything about him. And yet anybody can know where my new house, where my rooms are, and I don't like that either. So I think we've got an issue here, and I think it's a good issue that he's got. Now the other thing, this $250,000, that's not much money according to what's been tossed around in this room. But if that's borrowed money, that comes to $500,000 or more. And I know I've heard about arbitrage. Now, arbitrage is great. It's a wonderful thing. It's finally given me a way to get rich. Because, as I said, on my cost-conscious, concerned citizens club, there's only one member. It's me. No treasurer. But with arbitrage, all I need to do is borrow enough money if I can find the right person and live on the interest. I mean, it's right here. April 5th, 2001. The county can have positive arbitrage by borrowing money and earning interest. I plan to borrow as much as I can if this is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else? Seeing no takers, I move we go into executive session for the purposes as outlined, and this board will reconvene prior to 1:15 because at 1:15 I am leaving. Is there a second?
Second. Talking first.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Bracy? Aye. Mr. Moore?
Aye. This is our new county